right, so today we're diving into something a little different, something really hitting home for you specifically.
Yeah, literally hitting home, right?
Exactly. We're talking about your house in St. Louis and uh, and this whole thing about air duct cleaning.
Yeah.
Is it like, is it really necessary?
Uh,
Or what?
is it just hype?
Right. Like, I feel like everybody's got an opinion on this. You talk to one person
You're right.
and they're like, oh, you got to do it every year. And then somebody else is like, nah, it's a total scam. So,
Absolutely.
so we're gonna like figure this out.
We're going to figure it out.
Is it something that is actually important here in St. Louis or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, to figure that out, we got to look at like what makes St. Louis,
Right.
right? It's not just any old city.
Yeah, it's definitely not just like any other place. I've lived in a few different cities.
Yeah.
And St. Louis is like its own animal when it comes to weather.
Yeah.
Like 4 seasons.
4 very distinct seasons.
Okay. But like really distinct. Like you go from like sweltering, 100-degree summers with like 1,000% humidity to like,
Yeah.
below zero winters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your poor HVAC system is just like, what is happening?
Yeah. It's like, make up your mind. What are we doing here?
Right. And I feel like that has to affect like the whole dust situation.
Oh, for sure. I mean, think about it. Your system's working overtime trying to keep up with those temperature swings, and all that starting and stopping, it kicks up all kinds of dust and debris inside your ductwork.
Right. And when I moved here from Arizona a few years back, the humidity was a shock to the system.
Oh, yeah. Coming from a dry climate like that.
I was not ready. Like my hair,
Forget about it.
forget about, but like think about what that does inside your house too.
Right. It's not just bad hair days.
Mm.
That humidity is like an open invitation for mold and mildew to set up shop in your ducts.
Ew. Okay. So now we're talking about more than just dust bunnies. What kind of mold are we dealing with here?
Well, the usual suspects in the Mississippi River Valley. Aspergillus and Cladosporium are pretty common.
And those are not
Not the kind of house guests you want.
the kind of house guests you want. No.
No.
All right. Well, that's already kind of freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're not done yet, right? Because St. Louis also has
We're not even close.
some serious pollen. Right.
Right.
I mean, I personally, August, September, October, I am a walking sneeze thanks to ragweed.
Yeah, ragweed is brutal here.
It's like everywhere.
Everywhere.
But so it's not just ragweed, right?
No, it's like a year-round pollen palooza. You've got tree pollen in the spring, grass pollen all summer long, and then ragweed comes in for the grand finale.
Just to finish this off.
Yeah.
So all that stuff is just like floating around
Floating around, ending up in your ductwork.
in the ducts.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say, you're sitting there, you're like, okay, maybe this duct cleaning thing isn't a total scam. Like, what are the actual benefits of getting them cleaned? Aside from like the peace of mind of not having mold and dust and pollen blowing around. Is there like an actual like payoff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, you're going to see a big improvement in your indoor air quality,
Oh, wait.
right? When you get rid of all those allergens, dust, mold, it can really make a difference, especially if you or someone in your family has allergies or asthma.
Yeah.
Like you were saying with the ragweed.
Yeah.
That can be a game changer. Plus, when your system doesn't have to fight through all that gunk,
Right.
it can actually run more efficiently.
Oh, okay.
So that means you could potentially save some money on your energy bills.
So it's like a win-win. You're breathing easier
And your wallet's happy.
your wallet's a little happier.
Yeah.
Okay, now the other thing I'm thinking is like, could not cleaning your ducts actually like damage your system over time?
Absolutely. It's like anything else. If you don't maintain it, it's going to wear down faster.
Yeah.
Think about it. Your system's constantly working harder to push air through all that dust and grime, and that puts a lot of stress on the components. Over time, that can lead to premature wear and tear, breakdowns, and ultimately you're looking at potentially expensive repairs or even having to replace your system sooner than you should.
That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like we're definitely leaning toward duct cleaning being a good idea, especially in St. Louis. But how often are we talking about, I've heard that 3 to 5 year rule thrown around a lot. Is that like a hard and fast rule?
Well, it's a good starting point, but it's not one size fits all, you know? Like if you're in an older home in St. Louis, you might have leaky ductwork, and that means you're pulling in more dust and debris from your attic or crawl space, so you might need to clean them more often than someone in a newer, more tightly sealed house.
Okay.
And then, like we talked about, if you've got family members with allergies or asthma, you might want to consider more frequent cleaning to keep those allergens under control.
So it's all about knowing your own situation and what's best for your family. Okay, but let's say you're like me and you tend to forget about these things until there's a problem. Are there any like red flags, any signs that are basically screaming, get your ducts cleaned like yesterday?
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you're seeing visible dust or mold around your vents,
Okay.
that's a pretty clear sign.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And also, pay attention to your body. If you're noticing an increase in allergy symptoms, especially when your HVAC system is running,
Okay.
or if there's a persistent musty odor coming from your vents,
Okay.
those are pretty good indicators that it's time to investigate.
Gotcha. So be on the lookout for the visual cues and trust your nose. It sounds like duct cleaning in St. Louis isn't just some sales pitch. It's something that's actually pretty important for our health and for our homes,
Yeah.
especially given the climate and the fact that so many of us live in these beautiful old houses.
Exactly. It's definitely something to consider seriously.
For sure. And hey, even if you decide that professional cleaning isn't necessary right now, just being aware of the signs and the potential issues, that can empower you to make informed decisions about your home's air quality.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. And honestly, this has been super helpful for me personally.
Glad to hear it.
I know what I'm doing this weekend, checking those vents. For everyone listening, we hope this deep dive gave you some clarity on the whole duct cleaning debate and maybe even inspired you to take a peek at your own vents. Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So until next time, stay curious
Stay curious.
and breathe easy,
Hopefully.
hopefully.